we bring you the roast of Nick Paolella.
From Oak Brook, Illinois, tonight's featured man of the hour, Dominick Paolella. Tonight's posters are star-studded cast that we brought in from the far corners of the earth. Give a warm welcome to Fran Butler, Larry Belcaster, John Paolella, Angela Bank, Bill Hagan, Lou, and AJ Paolella. And now your host, Dean Martin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Bruce Lutz. If this evening goes as smooth as the introduction, we're in for a long night. I told him when the music stops, just find a seat, but apparently that's too difficult. But you know, it's been 30 years since I've done a celebrity roast here on Earth, and 20 years since I've been here. But I heard about Dominick Paolella and his special day. Where is Dominick? Let's get him up here and roast him. Now, I heard that Dominick likes to speak a lot, and I told him no uncertain words, you need to keep your mouth quiet tonight. We'll see how long he lasts. Nick, you're a special man. You are, without a doubt, the most talented, the most intelligent, the most funny, and the most handsome man in all of Chicago. And that is the first lie of many who will hear tonight. And I've heard with your group, the first liar doesn't have much of a chance. You know, being Dino, Nick, you and I have a lot in common. We both have Italian ancestry. We're both very ruggedly good-looking men with a smooth voice that is good with the women. And we're both old enough to know that the candles cost more than your cake. You're in your 80s now, and I'm well past my 80s, and so we know, Nick, that life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the quicker it goes. But for 80 years old, you're in great shape, Nick. He was just telling me how great a shape he is in, even though things point south instead of north, things start to improve. But he was bragging just before the show about how he can still touch his toes, and I said, Nick, if you're doing it with your balls, it doesn't count. But listen, there's no surprise how a good-looking guy like me, who was a celebrity, who could sing, got the ladies. You had your challenges, Nick. You're completely bald. You lost all of your hair, and yet he claims to be very successful with the ladies. And this is borne out by a recent scientific survey. They studied men that went bald up front, and they found out they're very good thinkers. And they studied men that went bald in the back, and they're good lovers. And people like Nick, who are bald all over, think they're good lovers. I'd like to bring up the first of many roasters here, somebody from Company A. Now, Company A, I'm not sure exactly what the letter A stands for, but I think you can't say it in church. But of course, now they're so old, instead of Company A, it's Company A. Listen, I think it's great that you ran around with a bunch of hellions when you were young, staying out late, drinking booze, and staring at breasts. But now you're all so old that you're going to bed early and snoozing, and the only breasts you're staring at are your own in the mirror. Well, with all due respect, Fran Butler, a long-time, lifetime friend, let's welcome him to the stage. Fran.
Thank you, Dino. Hi, Nick. How are you, kid? I'm good. Good. The thing I do remember about Nick, and it's not in my notes, is when he did wear a do on top of his head. He closed the deal for cleaning the bowling alleys, and he was out there looking at everybody who was back, and he was out in the alleys. And he said, it'll clean so well, it'll clean like the top of my head with that. He grabs his swig and takes it, and he sold the deal. That's stuff. Nick and I go back a long time. We met 60-some years ago in college, at Loras College, a small Catholic college in Dubuque, Iowa. Nick was called Big Julie. And if you remember Guys and Dolls, he was right out of Central Casting. I mean, he was Big Julie from the west side of Chicago. And he had his hair, and he was muscular, and he was big, and he was tan. Sorry about this. Nick is one of the few guys who is a legend in his own life, but he truly was a legend up at school and in Dubuque, Iowa. There's no question about it. And there was a day that I became an Italian through the help of Nick's dad, Angelo, got me a job as a laborer for Angelo, for himself. He's a bricklayer. We were putting in sewers on Army Avenue, and the BA, the business agent, would come up and he'd want to check on all of these guys that were on the job. And Angelo would get a hold of me and he would push me on the shoulder. He said, get down in the hole. And he'd push me down into this 8-foot hole, and I'd be hiding down there. And I would hear a lot of Italian going back and forth, back and forth. They were, okay, Fred, come on up. Okay. So I come up, and he said, your new name is Francesco Ungarini. True story, true. You can't make this stuff up. After college, we had a lifelong friendship that continued to grow. To know Nick is to love him, and to be his pal. And I don't know of a guy who's got a bigger heart than this guy, or who can gather more people together than this guy at any one instance. But we had our times. We met at Freddy's, many meetings at Freddy's, a saloon on Roosevelt Road that everybody went to, had a couple of drinks. Some of us even got married out of that place because we met our love. He also was very dear friends with all the Black Hawks, Bobby Rush, Billy, what's his name? Bobby Rush, yeah. And we would have a great time, men only, and of course we never could go back to the same restaurant again. But we also remember Nick, where he and Moon Billings, Jim Devine, and his pal Jim, who's hiding behind a post back there, they were changing the social life in Park Ridge as it went along in those years. About the early 60s, Nick and I connected again. He was out in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, building bridges. The interstate was coming up from Cincinnati to Columbus, and he was running the bridge building. And Beth and I lived out there at the time, my wife Beth, and Tommy Doherty, short Tom Doherty, not the tall one that we know here, and also Eddie and Katie McMahon lived out there. And we would go to visit Nick, and the only way you could find him, because he would have his residence in a trailer with a few other trailers that were part of the business that they had offices in. Nick ordered especially a Chicago street light and had it brought in and placed in the middle of his compound. And if you can picture this, you're looking at nothing but corn, and here is this huge street light coming over the middle of the corn. And that's how we found him whenever we went visiting. Okay, this one really touches me, though. This is a true story. You can't make this stuff up. Nick was thinking about a career change in the 70s, and he gave me a call, true story. He said, do you think I'd be good in sales? You would say, Nick, are you shitting me? Come on. Of course. Well, he was starting to sell janitorial supplies, and he got in with his cousin John, and the two of them, well, the rest is history. Right now, after almost 40 years, they have one of the largest companies in the United States in the janitorial supply business, as well as the restoration, and also the educational business, because they take their time to educate their business people, which is really important. And so that's where it was. Of course, if you think about Columbus, Ohio, and you paid attention to to what's going on, there's a little bitty town over there called Washington Courthouse. Anybody know where Washington Courthouse is? A few of us do. Well, that's where he met Judy, the love of his life, and he's been married to her for 52 years. Okay, finally, Nick had a huge circle of friends. And once his friend, you were his friend for life. His sense of adventure, his caring ways, his kind heart will be missed by many. That's from a eulogy that I'm writing for Nick. He's writing one for me. That's a whole other story. In closing, I would like to just read through. I'm not good enough to sing it, but okay, but she won't sing it with me. It's a tune that goes Sweet Georgia Brown, but it's called Big Julie Brown. And this is kind of it. It's been said he knocked him dead when he was in town. In Dubuque, it was no fluke how he cooled him down. Do chicks, and he can't get, are do chicks that he ain't met. Loris claimed him, Duhawks named him, Big Julie Brown.
Here's for Fran Butler. The next speaker I just met, he's as spry as 74 years old, Mike Lipman. I had the pleasure of meeting him earlier this evening and meeting his beautiful girlfriend, Rosie. Where's Rosie? Hi, Rosie. I pulled Mike aside. I said, you look very nervous and very stiff. Are you worried about your performance tonight? He said, no, I took 2 Viagra's. I said, that explains the limp, but why you're still stiff in your neck. He said, one got stuck in my throat. I had to... So if his speech seems a little stiff, you'll know why. Mike Lipman, come on.
Well, thanks for the nice introduction.
Give that a kick in the head.
Well, about 2 weeks ago, I was approached by 2 unusual, swarthy-looking guys. They appeared a little shady and were dressed in striped suits that looked like they played in Spike Jones' band. I don't know if any of you younger people know Spike Jones, but, you know, regular zoot suits. It turns out they were 2 paisans of Nick. They didn't ask, but informed me I was going to participate in a tribute to Nick. The Godfather, or else. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. I can't remember if it was for a toast or a roast. I mean, a roast for the Godfather? That's like an oxymoron, Nick. They got the moron part right. My comments will be pretty short. I suspect there will be a lot of same comments about Nick. That's understandable, as he is a pretty basic, plain, easy to understand guy. Just ask his family. I asked my family for input to say about Nick, and they said, Nick who? Anyway. It was in 1971. I think Nick took us for Italians because I had a big nose. He found out I was Jewish, but decided to keep us in his circle because he assumed I was a doctor. When he realized I was an engineer, it finally relieved me of the turn your head and cough routine. Here now, ladies and gentlemen, are my top 10 Nick Paolella facts. Here we go. Number 10, things you didn't know about Nick. Nick is a cross-dresser. Sorry to tell you about this, but this all came to light when he was dressing for skiing and he got his bra caught up in his suspenders and his wig. Embarrassing and not a pretty sight. Remember that, AJ? Yeah, I thought he was. Number 9. Nick is supposed to be Italian, but does not like garlic and eats spaghetti with a knife and fork. Is that possible? He also eats ice cream with a knife, I'm told. I don't even want to think how he picks his nose. Number 8. And of course, everyone has noticed the ground level of the lot across the street has gone up about 3 feet since Nick moved in. Gee, I wonder where he throws his yard and other waste. I don't want to even think about the bodies. We know where he funnels his septic system. I was sitting next to the lady here this evening. I can remember when we did a little nighttime digging and arranged the tile so the septic waste ran right into the neighbor's yard. Do you think the neighbor noticed? The legal suit he filed suggests yes. Number 7. His favorite method of cooking eggs is to baste them with bacon fat, serve them for breakfast on trips with his friends.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that maybe this is not a favor for kosher Jewish people? Number 6. Franny, then there's Company A. I keep hearing about, and what a great bunch of guys they are. Well, I was in the Army, and the only Company A I knew about was a bunch of deserters who got caught in a Vietnam poorhouse partying and giving away defense secrets. I wonder if these are the same guys. What do you think, John?
No comment.
Number 5. Expiration date on food mean nothing. He ignores them. He throws nothing out. I can remember a can of prunes in the condo closet that were 10 years old that he served us. You don't want to hear the ending of this. Number 4. The first thing Nick does when we are on ski trips is to prepare his famous tuna fish salad. You guys know that. The first thing the rest of us do on a ski trip is to prepare how not to eat his famous tuna. No onions, no eggs, I don't know. Number 3. I felt really good to be asked to go as a partner for the condo in Breckenridge, Colorado, our ski condo. Initially, everything was going fine, and then I got to look at our mortgage and saw who the other partners and the co-signers were. Of course, there were the two Paolellas, Nick and John. Then there was Tony, Two Fingers, Tucci, Vito Corleone, and Johnny No Nose Stefano. And of course, then there's John Leininger, Mike Lipman. John, I don't know how we ever got in. Like, what's going on here? Our revenue every month was about $100,000, and yet Nick's accounting firm, Do We Cheat Them Now, keeps coming up with a loss every year for tax reporting. Like, am I going to go to the Slammer? All right. We're going to number 2, Angela. Don't ever accept an invitation to eat Chinese food at Nick's house. Don't do that. We were supposed to eat at 7 p.m., but Nick didn't return with the order until 9 p.m. He goes to one place for egg rolls, another for sweet and sour soup, another for fried rice, another for egg bouillon, and can you believe it? Another for fortune cookies, which are free anyway. Nick is the only guy I know that 20 minutes after eating Chinese food, he gets hungry to drive to another Chinese restaurant. And finally, number 1. Nick likes to be called the Italian stallion, but all his friends know differently. Come on. He has no hair, his legs are like a chicken's, he can't hear, and he has short-term memory loss. At his age, the stallion... At his age, the stallion is getting calls from glue factories. closing, and on a serious side, Nick has been a real good friend, and I'm so glad he and the Paolella family have been in my and my family's life. We've covered a lot of ground, had some good times, hit some hard bumps in the road. I wish Nick all the best and good health. And in closing, I do have to say though, Nick, that you are a good friend, but I have to be honest. I'm just as good friends with Tim. Since Tim and me, a hunting went, met 3 girls in a pop-up tent. They was 3 and we was 2, so I bucked 1. And Tim said, "Fuck it."
Well, that was a great performance, wasn't it? And Rosie will be followed by the better one later tonight. Well, we've had somebody from Company A and we've had a neighbor. Now it's time for a relative. Little Lair. Little Lair is 10 years, is that right? 10 years? 10 years younger than Nick?
25.
Little Lair, we need to talk. You're in your 70s now, if I count right. It's time to begin acting dignified, Lair. Now what I hear is Larry has lots of fast cars, lots of fast women, and he's out flying around Florida and having vacations on yachts and chasing young women till all hours of the night. Is this true? Larry, you're in your 70s. You need dignity. Trying to give a young woman a hickey with your gums is not dignified. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the distinguished Larry Belcast.
Well, unlike these other distinguished gentlemen, I don't have any hats to represent. I didn't prepare any remarks, so Angela asked me to speak and say something nice about Nick. And I said, you're joking, right? And then she said, well, say something that's not nice about Nick. And I asked her if she was joking about that too. But my dear cousin here, he's quite a guy. And, you know, Nick went to Loras College, as you already heard. And I can remember right after his father, Angelo, bought his diploma, Nick was at college for a long time. And finally his dad talked to the priest. It wasn't Hesper. What was the priest? Somebody. He made a nice donation for the university. And after 8 years, Nick finally got it. That was great. He was a really great guy. But you know, when Nick graduated in 1934, there was a depression, of course, going on, as we all know. And luckily, Nick's uncle was in the restaurant business, and he was able to get Nick a job. And he got him a job on a fishing boat. And that was Nick's first job. Well, I bet he had a college degree. So, of course, when you start out on a fishing boat, you're kind of at the bottom of the rung. And so they made Nick chop up the fish and give them to the guys that do the fishing. So Nick was called a baiter. And, of course, Nick, being a college graduate, the captain of the boat recognized that within 3 months that he had to promote Nick. And he did. And Nick, of course, was promoted to master baiter. And it was a skill that he carried on for the rest of his life. And if you've ever shaken either one of his hands, and in fact, when not long ago, Nick told me that he was getting a little amorous with Judy, and she rolled over and said, "Go fishing." But it's true. Look at your hands. Look where he's at. Look where his hands. Yeah. You know, Nick was kind enough to ask me to go on a speaker. Normally when you ask a person to go to dinner, or you ask them to do something, you're kind of like, hey. addicted to that. It's like the parties. Everybody ever go to any Nick's charity parties? Nick has these lovely charity parties he does for everybody. It's wonderful. Right after he gets a new car. The charity gets about $12, and Nick, God knows what he gets. One thing we know tonight, he's not going to make any money off this. I hope he brought anything for you. We were told not to, otherwise, being 20,000 is normal. So anyway, Nick invites me to go on a ski trip. In fact, Mike was on the ski trip, and John was on the ski trip. And he invited my nephew Mike, who told me not to use his name. And I guess I did. I'm sorry, Mike. Mike's not here, so he won't know. So anyway, the five of us went out to dinner. And as you do when you go skiing, you go home and take a shower, and have a few cocktails, and then you go out there with a few cocktails, and you have dinner, and have a few cocktails. And being that we were just a little older than John and Mike, not much, we went home about midnight or 1 o'clock. And Nick and I can't even admit this, but I have to admit it. We slept in a king bed. And every night I told him to go fishing. Man, it's the horny son of a bitch. But anyway, Mike is sleeping on a couch, I think, Mike, or someplace. Maybe the floor. And Nick and I are sound asleep. And John and my nephew Mike come barging in our bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning. Turn all the lights on, of course, throw the covers back. Were you thinking?
You would remember.
Fish again. Anyway, they're being cute, but they crumble crackers all over. Really funny. We got a big kick out of it. They got a kick out of it. We get it. Anyway, so now, of course, we hear them bounce around the walls, and they finally go to sleep. Well, anybody who knows Nick and has spent any time, after about 11 minutes, the conversation turned to shit. He likes to talk about you're gonna do one, or he did one, or he had a big one, or whatever. So now these two young Turks are sleeping in their bed, half drunk. And Nick and I say we gotta do something. We can't let them get away with it. So we did. We got a waist scan, and we shitted it. I can't make this up. And what's really amazing is, have you ever tried to do an on-demand shit? It ain't easy. We proceed to plant our little gift between their two beds. And lock the door from the outside. And after a while, I guess they wanted to go to the bathroom and realized they had a present. They never F with us again. And they never will. That was great. It wasn't easy to do that. But I've known Nick way too long. And eulogy, I don't think we'll do a eulogy. Well, somebody started to do that already. But one thing I remember listening to Nick talk about his escapades, because I'm a little younger than Nick, so I didn't really hang around until later, luckily. And one day he said to me, he says, all those ladies that I used to go out, he said, I realize now after having all these daughters, they all had a father. You realize that it's all of a sudden it came to dawn on him that all the women he was with, they also had fathers. The Lord has a way of getting even. But we've had a lot of good times. A lot of ski trips together, which we had great times with Dan and Gail. They're still here, aren't they? I thought you said you were going to leave early. I wouldn't have blamed you. But you know, it's also interesting that this is really a very normal family, this Paolella family. There's nothing abnormal about it. Some people know my former wife was a golfer. And one day I came home from work early, I was working for Jules at the time, actually. And I knew she'd be golfing, so I thought, that's okay, you know, that's what she did. Unfortunately, she didn't make a lot of money. She was a professional golfer. And in the 3 years she was on tour, she made $763. I was hoping to retire, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Anyway, I came home about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I know she's golfing. And I get home and I hear noises in the basement. Being Italian, I went and got a gun. What else should you do? I went downstairs and who's downstairs? Auntie Rosie. Ironing. I said, what are you doing down here? She says, I'm ironing your shirts. I said, I thought my wife ironed my shirts. She said, no, I iron your shirts. She gives me 50 cents a piece. While she's ironing shirts, Uncle Angelo is on the way back from Kansas City, Missouri, where he bought peas and corn that he saved $6 a can. Case. He bought 3 cases, so he figured the trip was worth it. Nick is on some ship masturbating. His sister wants to become a nun when she's 91 years old. I said, this family is just perfectly normal. There's nothing abnormal about it.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. How'd you survive all these years? And I used to work with his father too, when his father was putting sewers on the Lawndale Avenue interchange. And one day, Uncle Angelo was standing next to the truck, and I'm talking to Angelo. He's asleep. He's standing up. Sound asleep. Jackhammers are going, they're doing up. And Angelo's asleep. This is a normal Italian family. Unbelievable. You know, Nick, I never liked you. But I do love you, and that's important. And it's been wonderful. We got a great family. We're very blessed. We truly are blessed. And you're one of the reasons we're blessed. God bless you.
I guess that's why there's that famous expression, you don't bring crackers to a shit fight. Next, we have a very good-looking Frank Sinatra Jr. will be speaking next, John Paolella. This is a cousin of Nick and also a very successful business partner. He's renowned for being partners with Nick for the last 40 years and taking a janitorial supply business and building it up so it's a multi-million-dollar national corporation now that is quite truly the envy of everyone in the industry. One of the benefits of this company and the reason it's so successful is that they take the time to feed the customers that they have there. Give them food. However, Nick, I think I need to coach you. Some people take it the wrong way when you ask if they've ever had an Italian sausage in the can. Ladies and gentlemen, John Paolella.
Thank you very much. I don't know how long I will speak because this is about as long as I can go without going to the bathroom. I'm quite serious about that. I decided that I would work on this earlier today, and I prepared my notes on my iPhone. The problem was that I can't figure out how to get it not to disappear every 30 seconds. My password back in. So, there's going to be a lot of breaks in the action. It took me a while to figure out how to get the print to to be a little bigger than the standard friend. I have that, so that should be okay. So, we've all been to a wedding where the best man makes completely inappropriate comments about the groom. I mean, it's embarrassing. You sit here and you can see the father of the bride just shaking. So I thought I would ask this group here tonight, should we talk about inappropriate things or appropriate things? So all in favor of inappropriate, raise your hand. All in favor of appropriate, raise your hand. I believe earlier someone said something about the first liar doesn't have a chance. So I've learned from Nick that I don't have a chance. So I know nothing that's inappropriate about Nick. I just want to go on record and say nothing at all. And those things he says about me, all lies. Lies. Nick lies. I can tell you that now. So, hold on. Let me see if I can get this thing back on. Oh, it's still there. Okay. So Nick spread rumors for many years. I know his kids know these rumors. Probably other people don't know these rumors, but I think he was 75 years old, and I flew to Florida to join him for his 75th birthday party. He was, of course, was working. And he tells his children that when it came time to pay the bill, that I had left. Okay, so, and he was going to pay the bill. Well, I'm guessing that I paid for half of that bill anyway, just so we all know that I want to go on record that way. And it's really funny because tonight he's paying for all this bill. So back to the notes. So more than one or two of you might know that Nick has been accused of being frugal. Generous to no end, and that's very true. There's nothing that he would give to anyone in this room, to any one of his friends. But he has been accused of being frugal. So when we first started our business, it was important that we were frugal. We didn't have a lot of money. We borrowed everything that we could, and that's how we started the business. I went into work on a Saturday morning, and I see Nick. He's in the back of the warehouse, and he's got these 5-gallon containers of water that we buy to put in the water dispenser. And he's got the hose, and he's filling up. No, this is true. Don't trust the water. He is filling those 5-gallon containers with a hose. And he's actually, I don't know how he figured out how he could put those blue caps back on it. But he figured out how to put the blue caps back on it. And how long has this been going on? He said, do you think I'm going to pay $5 for a 5-gallon container of water? Not a chance. I really was somewhat okay with it. I had to pretend like I wasn't. More frugal. So I learned. So we had a brown van with some kind of vacuum hose on the side of it. I had nice carpet inside of it. It was really a fancy vehicle. So I don't know if anybody's going to talk about it tonight, but Nick would use his vehicle to take his family on vacation. It sort of looked like the Clampets. He put the family room furniture. He put the family room furniture in the van, no seatbelts, and he would take the family to Ohio in that van with a vacuum hose on the side. He had a love seat, and that's how they would go to Ohio. So I decided this weekend I was gonna, here's this person who's always going out of his way for all of us, frequently for me. I decided I was going to panel his van, because that was my van. He had a white cargo van. Of course, he gave me the nicer van. He had this white cargo van. So I go to Maher Lumber on Irving Park Road. Irving and Wooddale, I think, right there. And I'm going to get the plywood. I've got these sheet metal screws. I'm going to put it all, get it all set, and I'm going to put carpet on it. It's going to be beautiful. He's gone for the weekend. It'll be all set when he gets home. So I'm there, and the lumber guy says to me, you know, this plywood is X dollars per sheet. We have this closeout wood here that you can buy. I thought, what would Nick do? I bought the closeout wood. Got it all together. Now, the van's open, the doors are all open, the windows are all open, so I noticed that there was this odor to the wood. But I got it all done. I had benches on the side, no carpet on, but it was all done. I figured that was good enough. He'd get home. I worked Saturday and Sunday to get it done. And it was only, I don't know if it was springtime or whatever, but it was the first warm day. Well, you couldn't sit. I mean, I know Judy knows this. You could not go in that van. It doesn't matter if it was summer, winter, with the windows up, because this oil came out of the wood and it burned your eyeballs. I mean, it just was completely overwhelming. You could not be in the van. It didn't matter, dead of winter. Here's Nick going down the highway with the windows down. It was terrible. So we never did carpet that van. So I'm not quite sure why. I think he thought I was going to take the wood out. Not a chance. No, so the wood stayed. Yeah, it's password. Got to put that in. Let's go there. Towels. So, you know, let's go to this, you know, the septic. Nick's septic is world renowned. So he would constantly tell me about these problems he was having with this septic. And the way he was going to solve the problem was towels. Because he described that his daughters, of which there were many, AJ, you weren't part of this, I don't think you used a towel. But he'd say they'd have one to wrap around their waist, one to put in their hair, one just for kicks. And he said something about them drying their butts and all this kind of stuff. So when they'd leave for the day, he said there'd be 15, 20 towels, for real, laying around. So he'd take these towels and look at them, and if there wasn't some kind of skid mark or makeup, he would put them in the dryer. Because if he washed those towels, his septic would overflow. So he was having a party at his house, and he said, John, I need some help. He always made it seem like it was going to work out really well for me. So it didn't really work out for me. Jim talked about that with me too, but Nick is the leader of it not really working out for you as well as it's going to work out for him. So he comes over and he's got this auger. So yes, I know about the neighbors and the septic. I might have been a little part of that. So we started the septic field has all these little fingers that drain to the side of the house. So he's got a party coming up in his backyard, and he's like, so what we're going to do, John, is we're going to take the auger. And I knew nothing. I grew up in Melrose Park. So we had sewers. We walked in the sewers. There was no septic. There was no septic. So I didn't know anything about a septic field. I'm 20. I don't know how there was. Anyway, I didn't know anything. So we're going to take the auger. We're going to start in the front yard, right next to the neighbor's drainage ditch. And we're going to take this auger and we're going to intersect all the fingers of the septic field. Okay, seems like a plan. So he's got me being younger and stuff like that. He's sort of behind me, directing me as to what I should do. Okay? So I've got this auger in both hands, and I'm going back as we work towards the backyard. Starting to smell. Something's wrong here, Nick. This doesn't seem right. And he's like, just keep going, John. So he reaches in, he gives a little tug on it, and he's like, keep going, John. Keep going. Yes. Before we know it, I am ankle deep in shit. Ankle deep in shit. And he's like, just keep going. And he made it seem like it was always going to work out. I had no idea why it was going to work out for me. He made it to the back, and I don't know if he offered me hillbilly lemonade or something at the end of it, but, you know, it didn't work out so well for me. So there's, so we're remodeling one of our offices. And I'm on a metal ladder. And we've got the light fixtures, 2x4 light fixtures, and I'm going to take it down. Again, he's telling me exactly what I need to do. So I'm all ready to take this down. We're ripping out the ceiling, and I say, Nick, is the power out? He goes, yeah, the power's out. And I hesitated for a moment, and I said, Nick, are you sure the power's out? He said, yeah. one more time I asked, Nick. He's like, I said the power was out, John. So I grabbed the light fixture. Next thing I know, I'm like, Nick! The power's not out! He knocks me off the ladder. My brother turned the power off. That doesn't work out for me. I'm not really sure what's going on. Oh, gee, the print just got smaller. I'm not sure what to do now. Yeah, that Nick's idea, we talked about the dates, the expiration dates on food. I'm not sure if that was Dina. There is, no, there, did you talk about that?
No, Mike.
So, he told me that was a marketing scheme. He said they would grow their sales by putting dates. So I was really into marketing sales, so I thought, oh, that's interesting. And he said, so I am in the closet at Breckenridge, which, as Mike described, we have all kinds of food in there that it's all expired. All of it. I want some peanut butter. I'm like, Nick, this peanut butter expired like 6 years ago. And he's like, John, peanut butter doesn't expire. It's a peanut. It doesn't expire. So I don't know why I still believe in him. Stupid. I'm not really the smarter of the two partners here. Both come out. So I eat this peanut butter, right? And I just fry this peanut butter. It's completely rancid. I mean, I have a difficult time eating peanut butter without jelly now. And I'm like, Nick, you need to try this peanut butter. I said, I don't want to eat peanut butter. Again, not better than Nick. Fake IDs. So, who gets fake IDs? Well, usually we're like, well, when the drinking age turned to 18 when I was 16, and then it went back to 21 when I was 21, so I was able to slide in at fake IDs at 16 years old. There's a great bar in Melrose Park, and we could drink at 16 years old, and I was 12, but they still accepted my age. So Nick, we're going skiing, he tells me that I got fake IDs. You got fake IDs? You're 60 years old. So when you're 65, you can ski for half price. I was so pissed off. This is terrible. So I'm behind them. And they don't know that I'm with them. I'm like, hey lady, ask him for a second form of identification. This is not his real ID. Kid, always kid, just kid. No, for real, this is not, he's not 65. Ask for a second form of identification. He got away with it again. So, probably sometime last year. Again, I think this is all intentional. I think it was our buy-sell agreement. Ever since we signed that agreement, I think he's been trying to, anybody that has a buy-sell agreement, if I die, he ends up with everything. Okay? So I'm pretty sure that's what all this stuff is about. Really sure. So I thought so. Thank you, Larry. So I walk into the office. It's late in the afternoon. And, Nick is still signing all the checks. I'm not sure if he necessarily knows what he's signing checks for, but he's signing all the checks. So I walk in there, and he's slumped over his desk, like so. He's got his pen in his hand, like this. He's not moving. Stack of checks there, pen's upright. I walk in, I'm like, Nick, nothing. Nick, nothing. Now I'm concerned. I mean, his eyes are closed, he's slumped over, and I yell out for the third time, Nick! And I go and run around his desk, and I started to yell, call 911. Didn't yell, grab him, shake him again. Third time, he looks up. Is it 5 o'clock? Who cares if it's 5 o'clock? Who cares if it's 5 o'clock? I mean, Nick, why does 5 o'clock matter in your life? He goes, well, I get tired around 5 o'clock. Really crazy stuff. Again, it was me I'm on the floor holding my chest. It's the pain. I'm getting tired of this routine, okay? So I love this guy. He's, I won't say a whole lot because I'll cry. He's been such an important part of my life. I thought a lot of different things I could say about him that I learned, and there's a bunch. Some of them good, some of them not so good, but there's a bunch. And on a serious note, there's a lot that has made a really big deal in a positive way in my life. I think one of the, and I don't want to emphasize this one because there's just so many, I had to come up with one, but the word commitment is one that I would use to describe this person. He's been committed to his family, he's been committed to his friends, and he's been committed to his company and the people that we have the good fortune to work with. So I think that commitment is a really big part of the things that I've learned from Nick. And again, there's just really so many that we could go on and on. He's taught me a bunch. So I love him very much. I feel fortunate that he's been in my life, and he means the world to me.
You know, some of you know I passed away in 1995. And my time in heaven seems shorter than this show tonight. Some great stories. You know, my first day in heaven is an interesting story. God wanted to meet with me, and when I was in his presence, he sneezed. I didn't know what to say. There's a beautiful angel. Angela is Nick's daughter. Angela, please come on up and roast her.
All right, I am representing the female party here. Cheer for the ladies, because I know you all have one or two things to say about this, right? First of all, are you still awake? I'm just checking. Because this man can sleep with his eyes closed. He can sleep with his eyes open. Yeah. Ooh, I messed that one up. Anyway, so John, thanks very much. You took two of my stories. But you've always been the cousin that has taken a lot from me. No, I'm just joking. So I am going to talk about being Nick's daughter. And being Nick's daughter has been quite an experience. And I'm speaking for all of Nick's daughters. Because, take a look at this man. Imagine finding a boyfriend with a man that looks like this. Now you all know what he looked like when he was in his 40s, and we all saw pictures over there of what he looked like in his 40s. He looked like he was in the mob, and I didn't see it. But now when I look at those pictures, my poor boyfriends, no wonder they were so scared when they would come and pick me up. They were like, yes, Mr. Paolella. Yes, Mr. Paolella. I'll have her home in time, Mr. Paolella. So needless to say, he has quite a frightening look. So I don't see it, but needless to say, they did. But my father has been a true inspiration in my life. He's been a true inspiration about how I feel about working with other people and loving other people. He is a true giver, and he has made me a true giver as well too. So I'm going to move on to a couple stories about my dad though, and why at 51 I'm still terrified of this man. Amen. My sisters who are all in their 50s all feel the same way. Needless to say, this goes back to when I was in college, and I had a little Volkswagen Bug. Oh my God. I loved my Volkswagen Bug. And I was driving to school one day, and I got hit from behind, and I was very gullible and trustworthy of this person who hit me from the behind, and I said, hey, can you do me a favor and pull over and let's get out of traffic and I'll get your information. Needless to say, he took off. 2 weeks later, driving home late at night after going out studying, and I came home, and as I'm driving home, everybody's flashing their lights at me and I can't understand why. So I pull over, I come to find out my car's on fire. And my car is blazing on fire. Not just a little bit on fire, like blazing on fire, and I'm driving down the highway. Needless to say, tow truck comes, police come, they're all tow truck drivers like, I'll take you home. I said, no, you're not taking me home. The policeman's taking me home. He's like, well, why? No. The policeman's taking me home. So, came home, drove the policeman. Policeman's like, okay, I'm gonna drop you off. You're all good. No. You're coming inside. He's like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No. You're coming inside and you're going to tell my father that my car caught on fire and that is why I don't have a car anymore. He's like, what? And I said, trust me. So I go into the house, I bring the policeman into the house with me at 2 o'clock in the morning. And my father, I go up, wake him up, I said, come down. My dad comes down, sees the policeman in the front hallway at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he's like, what happened? He said, sir, your daughter's car caught on fire. It is being towed away. She is fine. He's like, okay. And I said, thank you. Needless to say, if the tow truck guy would have drove me home, that wouldn't have gone that way. So I needed protection. Trust me, I needed protection. So another story based on my father's looks. My father and I are both beloved Cub fans. Well, yes, Cubbies, right? Yeah, this is our year. Let's put it in quotes. But needless to say, we're beloved Cub fans. I was a big Bleacher bum. He, of course, with John, are both season ticket holders. And this goes back to a story of when we were at a Chicago Cubs playoffs, yes, believe it or not. They have made the playoffs once or twice in the last 20 years. And my father and John and my mom, and I don't know who else was with you guys, and little Johnny, were at the Cubs game. And where my parents' seats are, or John and my dad's seats are, they're behind home plate, and in front of them, there are seats that belong to the Cubs. And they let anybody have them, and needless to say, whenever the Cubs make the playoffs, you don't know whoever is going to end up in those seats. So these people who were sitting in front of my father kept standing up. And my father kept telling him, you need to sit down during the game. They were not listening to him. He leaned over and said something to them, and they sat down. Not sure what he said, but I come to find out later, I knew what he said. They sat down, and not only did they sit down, they left. So, approximately 10 minutes later after these patrons left, the Cubs security comes. And they come and they say, Mr. Paolella, we need to talk to you. They walk him out. Of course, John, my mom, and little Johnny stay in the game. They walk him out. They said, Mr. Paolella, what did you say to those guys? And he says, I told them to sit down. No, Mr. Paolella, what did you say to them? I told them, if they don't sit down, I'm gonna effing blow their brains out. I should throw you into the jail of Wrigley Field. And he says, no. He says, but listen, we know who you are. You've been a season ticket holder for so long. We're just going to ask you to leave. So my dad leaves the playoff game. Guess where John and my mom and little Johnny were? They stayed. The security guard said to my father as he was leaving, he says, Mr. Paolella, he said, you cannot look the way you look and say what you said and not think that somebody is going to take you seriously. that has been my challenge. But nonetheless, what I have learned from my father and what I do love so much about my father is the one thing that he's bestowed upon me and bestowed upon my sisters and my brother, as well as I'm sure all of you, is that you have to have a good attitude. Everything comes down to that. If you have a crappy, or as he says, shitty attitude, thank you, Alyssa, everything is shit. If you have a good attitude, everything is good. So I've been grateful and happy and unbelievably blessed to have been a part and have gotten selected into this family. As crazy as it is, I would not take any other family. And I'm also blessed to have him as my father and mostly blessed to have him as my friend.
Next up, we have Bill Yaden. Now, I don't know Bill Yaden that well, and part of my job as the roaster is to come up with jokes about people. Now, Bill Yaden has worked with John Donne and helped their company become very successful, but I asked for some information to make some jokes. And they came back with, well, he's not very tall in stature, and he's of Irish descent. So that reminds me of a leprechaun legend about Nick. Like myself, many Italian families do not come from money. In 1957, Nick went into a bar bathroom and he met a leprechaun. And the leprechaun looked at him and said, "Oh, Nick Paolella, how would you like to be wealthy? How would you like to be rich beyond your wildest dream?" And Nick said, "Are you shitting me? Are you shitting me?" I said, "No, I'm not shitting you, sir." "Well, what am I going to do?" He says, "Well, sir, I'll make you rich beyond your wildest dream. You'll so be very successful. All you have to do is let me hug you from behind for 2 minutes." So 2 minutes later, Nick is saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm letting a leprechaun hug me from behind." And the leprechaun says, "I can't believe you don't know I'm Bill Yaden." Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Yaden.
Thank you, Dino. Can you see me? Of course, I do have Uncle Junior from the Paolellas, he from the Sopranos next to me here. So when I hear that about Angela talking about him, I say, you know, I can understand. Whenever anybody sees him, he thinks, you know, they're kind of like, is this guy like from typecasting from the Sopranos or what? But one of the things that I get to do with Nick, and no, not the leprechaun. Although I have to say I have had the opportunity because over the last 10 years I've probably spent, I don't know, 150, 200 nights sleeping with Nick. We share a room quite a bit out on the road. And you know, you do notice that you find out a lot about people when all they've got on is their boxer shorts. You know, the old term about it strips away everything, well, it truly does. Now the difference is that when I'm with Nick, I tend to be an early to bed person, right? Nick tends to be a early to bed person, but he wants his TV, or I should say the TV's on, right? I can sleep with the TV on, the lights on. I'm used to sleeping in a room of people. I'm the oldest of 15 kids, so I'm used to lots of kids in my family, right? So anyhow, what happens is that I go to sleep, and then I wake up at some point during the night because the TV's still going, the lights are still on, and Nick's over there. He's not actually sleeping in bed. He starts off always by kind of propping up against the pillows. He always got that little dental pick thing in his mouth there, which I think he was going to choke to death on some night, right? And you know, it's not like the old days where you could just go up to the TV and turn it off. You know, the first few times I went up to the TV and you're searching all around it. And, you know, there's got to be an on-off switch in here someplace. Finally, I can't find it. So I go, okay, well, I don't know where the remote is, but it's always in one place. Yes, it's in his crotch. I kept hearing all these things tonight, and I go, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Actually, his hands aren't that muscular from that, so gripping that remote every night, right? But I mean, so I'm sitting over there, I'm thinking, okay, so how do I actually get this thing, right? So usually, I kind of lean over Nick in the bed, and I'm kind of like trying to do this crane type thing, kind of doing it without that, So finally, I think it's slipping into those boxer shorts anyway, So although I could use the extra money, I don't think that's where I'm going. So finally, I give up. Next morning, Nick wakes up. Yeah, so Billy, how you doing? I said, come on, Nick, if you're going to go to sleep, put the remote on the bedstand, right? That shouldn't be too tough. And I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. So next night, sure enough, we'd go through the whole thing again. And now this night, he's put the remote on the other side of him, all right? And so this time, I'm trying to really reach over him, and I'm not tall, and I don't have long arms. So I'm kind of like almost in here. And just as I just about got it there, all of a sudden, hey, I'm watching this here! And so you can't be watching it, your eyes are closed. I hear all these people talking about how he falls asleep standing up. He does. I'm sitting there, we're in the room and I'm working on a desk at the computer. I'm just trying to do stuff, and he's over there and he's sitting on the edge of the bed, like right next to the TV. And he's got like the remote in one hand, he's got his cell phone in the other hand. And I've heard the story from John before, so I'm not going to go over and wake up, and I'm thinking any moment I kind of keep peeking back because he keeps leaning a little bit. I think he's going to go right over and smack his head right into this thing, So it's always interesting. As a matter of fact, I think the last time we were down in Florida, I was actually already down in Florida. I was staying in a house, but we were having our week-long class, and on Wednesday night we have a big dinner. And so I was driving about 45 minutes, so Nick said, why don't you just come down and spend the one night, down in my room like old times, right? And I promised, to put the remote in a really special place. So he's kidding me. He says, but I just got one bed. We always do that. We always kid about that. I just got one bed, So we get there about 10:30 that night, and I walk into the room, and I go, holy shit, Nick, there's only one bed. What do you think I told you? Yeah, but I thought you were kidding. You stay on your side, right? When Angela was asking about stories, I go, well, most of the stories I can't tell. I know a lot of the guys here know them longer and everything, but I thought, a lot of these are a little risky. I did see a couple people wanted appropriates. You were definitely in the minority, which tells me that these are all truly Nick's friends, right? But I have to tell you the one thing that I thought was really kind of special to me is several years ago, my daughter was getting married, my oldest daughter, and she was getting married down in Florida. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to send invitations out to everybody in John because they all live in Chicago. This is Florida. I don't expect them to come to Florida. And I don't want to send them out just thinking, looks like you're trying to get presents. So yeah, Nick asked me, he says, so what's going on with your daughter in the wedding? I said, well, it's going to be in Florida. And he says, well, are you going to invite people? And I told him no. He says, well, we're family. We're family. And Nick was on vacation in Mexico, right? And yet I said, Nick, you don't have to come to vacation. He just, Billy, we're family. We're family. I thought that was pretty cool. He left vacation early. Him, John came, Dave, Denise, all came up for my daughter's wedding. And I thought, people talk about family. But it's always that same old thing. Actions are much louder than words. And I feel like, Nick brought me into the family, and I can't be happier. So Nick, thanks, Dave.
Well, next up we got Lou. Lou, where are you? Where'd you go, Lou? Where's Lou? Lou is in the loo. All right, well, next up is not Lou. But I do have a joke I want to tell about him. It's an ethnic joke, and it's the only one tonight, so I'm going to tell it. Lou's Puerto Rican. Lou's a great friend of the family. He's been dating beautiful daughter, Julie, for years and years and years. And they've been dating, and you don't know if they're going to get married or not going to get married. So this brings up the question, if they were to get married, Nick, when does a Puerto Rican suddenly become Spanish? When he becomes your son-in-law? Crickets.
Crickets.
That's what he loved.
Next cue card. All right. Next up is AJ, Nick's son, who inherited all of Nick's great characteristics like his chicken legs and his ankles. Now, many of you know that AJ has made a career out of bodybuilding. He was a personal trainer, and the jokes that I thought of writing, I kept tearing up because I didn't want to have him rip my arms off. But he recently moved to California, the most beautiful weather state in the country, where people can run outside 365 days a year on the beach. And I thought, how could somebody open a gym and have people come inside? What kind of a person tries to sell somebody a gym membership? You say, well, no, come inside and pay me to do something you could pretend to do, but you could do it outside. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony John.
How you doing, buddy? All right. Good.
OCD clean person. I mean, it's something I've had to like stop and burn off. And I was like, why is it so freaking dirty? What is that? And then I look at the dash and I'm like, it's not the dash. This is nasty. And I look at the like, center console, it's all over the tachometer, like, woo! Oh, and ding, 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 ding. It's this guy's phlegm. And what is the strangest thing is I have it in my fucking car. Seriously though, I would suggest to him that we should create our own secret language by doing that. Like a secret code, like something that we could speak when we didn't want anybody to know what we were talking about. We would call it the triple PND, permanent pull-up post-nasal drip. So this roast thing isn't anything new for this guy because pretty much every night at dinner there was laughter at his expense. He was the butt of so many jokes. I can't believe he would even sit down with us. Our family expressed love with laughter. And most of the time it was at his expense. As may remember, I was a little rascal growing up. Yeah, I know you. I remember it as well. What's that?
I babysat you.
Yeah, I know. From putting fake snakes in my mom's bed, and then putting fake mice down in the basement and watching him run up from the basement like a 13-year-old girl. I'll never truly comprehend the burden I bestowed on the ones that loved me most. What I'll never forget is the undeniable amount of unconditional love they had for me, along with the relentless faith that one day I would turn out as they imagined. Nick's legacy will forever be known as a man full of great stories and loads of energy, like countless amount of energy. Unless he stopped moving, as obviously we all recognize. As soon as he stopped still, he was out cold. Anywhere, I was standing up, sitting down. I never understood how someone could do it. And then I turned about 33 and I started to do it. I remember saying, "Dad, you sleeping?" "Oh, no, I'm just resting my eyes." Even at like 7, I knew that was bullshit. But I continuously let him say it, and I was surprised every time. His spirit and zest for life is infectious. Would you agree? Yeah. It lives forever in our hearts. For those who are lucky enough to truly know him. What I remember most are his classic one-liners. The ones he would repeat over and over and over again. Like, "Hey, Mom, what are you saying, lady? You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Are you shitting me?" Close your eyes. No, close your eyes. Listen to this one. Close your eyes. And just pretend. Are you shitting me? I remember when you first learned how to send a text message. Get my text message. When I taught him what the acronyms meant. L-O-L. Laugh out loud. That's pretty cool. L-M-A-O. Laughing my ass off. Pretty cool. Honestly, if we had a doll, I could just rip it every time. Come on, noises. One of my fondest memories, and trust me, I was constantly watching for material. As a young boy coming home from a grocery store, we were in like this Oldsmobile, 2-door Oldsmobile that we would turn the hood ornament, we would turn it sideways, so it was going like this way versus that way, and then we would say, it's because the car's so fucking fast. And we were coming home from the grocery store, what kind of car was that? I don't even remember. We were coming over from the grocery store, stopped at a red light, and a red car pulls up, and with T-tops, and I didn't even know she was pretty, but she had blonde hair, and you sure thought she was pretty. She was breathing, yes. She looked over and noticed us looking over at her, as most of us do when we pull up next to a light for whatever human reason that is. And I witnessed this new thing, a way to say hello to someone that, until this day, I've never seen in my life. The car's there, I'm here, and he's in the driver's seat, obviously. And he turns, and she's looking, and I look, and I look at him, and it's this moment where it's like time stood still, and he goes, "Hi." My jaw dropped. I was so excited. I wasn't even, I don't know, I just knew I had some material for dinner. We were going going home for dinner, so we rush home and I go inside and I wanted to wait to bring it up at dinner, but I just couldn't. And they're making dinner and getting ready. And I told all my siblings, whoever was there, I don't remember who was there, and I told them, and we rolled that out for months. I can't even believe I pulled that one up out of the got a little something in my throat. For me, life is filled with more verbs than nouns. What I mean is I gobble up experiences and that create my story. There's these some moments in my life that Nate enlightened me one year and told me these are aha moments, when you realize, you're getting older and you're noticing your body's changing. One of mine was walking into Walmart and catching a glimpse of my thinning hair on a closed-circuit TV and going like, that's my head? That's my head? Yeah, that's a good moment. That was a good story.
Why is that funny?
It's a moment of self-actualization. It's an aha moment of self-actualization. Like when you see some type of tick or you notice some type of a tick or idiosyncrasy about that's entirely yours or perhaps inherited from somebody in your life as an influence. So I'm sitting in front of a TV. I don't know if you can see his hands because this is so fitting. I'm doing it right now. I'm sitting in front of a TV. 23. I'm sitting in front of a TV. And I notice my hands. I'm doing this like massage. I'm doing this massage to my hands. And I get like an occasional crack. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the stuff. And then I look down and I'm like, holy shit, I'm turning into him and I'm shaking my head. And I'm like, oh, it's so soon, I'm 23. How is this possible? So I remember back him saying on a regular basis, you ready? Your disposition sucks. You know that? The only thing a man has is his attitude. It's everything. I think it's obvious that I embraced this mindset in my life, and I owe that to you. Thank you for that. In retrospect, my judgment was impaired from my youthful ignorance. Boy, was I ignorant. Don't that hard. Now when I hear or see him in me, I'm excited for the future because I know that if I only amount to one half of his greatness, everyone I come into contact with will have a little bit of his legacy. It's like slowly dripping petals into a still body of water, watching the waves ripple across the surface. We are all those waves you created, Mom. I can remember when you would send me out to the garage to go get something for dinner. I really didn't want to go get it. So I just go out and pretend I looked. And this isn't just me. Every single person in life does this because when I started to manage people, I started to see this behavior all the time. And I'd come back in after 2 or 3 revolutions like a revolving door and say, I can't find it. This guy looks at me like, you're fucking shit. So he comes out, walks me outside, and he says, it's right here. Open your eyes and look. Just look. It's right in front of you. It's okay, hold on. Nick's legacy, as most of you know. Open your eyes, look.
password?
I do know the password, John, thank you. Now, sometimes we're all guilty of thinking we don't have enough time, regretting the past or worrying about the future, that we simply don't open our eyes and see what's directly in front of us. If I'm the least bit honest, Mo, I realize that it took me a while to learn how to stay still enough to truly see your grace and beauty of your character. Dad, you've not only been a father, but a friend, a party animal, a provider, a mentor, an advisor, and most of all, a saint, sent down from heaven to be my guardian angel. Without your presence in my life, you would not see the man you see in front of your eyes today. Each day I awaken to realize that I not only have another day to live, but I have all the memories of you in my life, and those will last in my heart forever. Now, if you would all kindly raise your glasses and give a toast to St. Dominic. May we continue to enjoy his ripple for many years to come. Whoa!
Very touching. Is Jimmy Paolella here? Jimmy? Over here. We have one last pinch hitter. Speaking of father to son, Jimmy Paolella, member of you know his father founded Kids Fight Cancer. So he'd like to come up and he's pinch hitting as our last roaster. Come on up, Jimmy.
Thank you, everyone. Happy birthday, Nick. On behalf of everyone at Kids Fight Cancer, an organization that my father started back in 1985, I'd like to say thank you to this wonderful individual sitting to my left. You've been an inspiration not only to myself, to my father, but to thousands of children afflicted with cancer. And over the years, for the last 30 years actually, Nick has been the most dedicated supporter of our organization, and he's continued to fight both cancer, the disease, and everything that we strive to improve for the people that we help. So sitting here is a great honor to have all of you here to be part of this great night, and to have Nick as a friend, as a motivator, as a mentor, and as a truly compassionate and generous individual that he is. So Nick, thank you, happy birthday, and continue to inspire us all.
Well, they've had a kick in the head. Well, I just want to say, as your son-in-law, I love you, Brown. Now get up here and roast our ass.
You know, it's not very often that I'm lost for words. All right? Today, when I walked in that front door, I actually had tears in my eyes. It's been a long time. Everybody said you had to know that they were planning something. I had no idea that the group of friends that have gotten together because of my family putting something together to get all of you to come here to honor me on my birthday is as thrilling as anything has ever happened to me. And some of the things that I heard tonight are all lies. I have a tendency to tell stories, and I always tell people they're really true stories and I have to make funny. Okay? But the things you said tonight are all true, everything you said. Even to the point where when we talk about eulogies, okay? I have mentioned that most of my friends are passing before me. And I have taken my marketing department and we are putting together my eulogy, okay? From birth until the day that I'm still here before I die. And if you cannot make the funeral, you can buy it for $19.95. It's true. True. business deal. And one of the things that somebody said tonight was about commitment. You know, many years ago, I ran around with a priest in a little town called Washington Courthouse. And I went to church to him the morning before I got married in the afternoon. And he wanted to give me, I thought, a Bible. Well, he gave me a dictionary. And the dictionary had an arrow pointing to a word. And the word was commitment. He said to me, he said, I need you to tell you you're going to get married. I know the person you're married. I know your background, but you've been living in sin for so long. Don't give yourself another sin. Marry this girl and leave her. He said, commitment is the term that you have to understand. If you believe in commitment, then marry her no matter what happens and stay with her as long as you can. When I see that priest, I'm going to kick his ass. I thought I was a good salesman. He put me to shame. But it is something that I believe in 100%. I've always been committed to a marriage, committed to my children, committed to my friends. It's a wonderful feeling when you realize that what is said about the fact that you might have a handful of friends. In my case, everybody here is my friend. I mean, it's a wonderful feeling to know that you have that many people that are close to you. And there is a little speech that I give at the end of our class every time we finish our 5-day class. And I try to close with something that is really true. When I ran my alumni association here in Chicago for my college, we would always hire a guest speaker. And I hired a guy named Sid Luckman. Sid Luckman was a Jewish quarterback in the 40s for the Chicago Bears, and everybody hated him because he got $50,000 from George Halas, and nobody loved him at all. As it turned out, he was probably the best quarterback they ever had. And he tells the story while he's speaking at the luncheon about the fact that the only friend he had was a guy named Joe Steinhardt, a lineman. They were so close in their friendship that when the first son was born in Joe's family, they went to the Chancery office in Indianapolis and had the rules changed for a Jewish man to be a godfather for a Catholic boy. And he became the godfather for the first son. Joe Steinhardt died, he's telling us. And he said, I was at the funeral, and I was at the wake that night before the funeral, and I realized all these years that he was close to me, and I never once told him that I loved him. At that time, anytime I talked to a friend of mine on the phone or in person, I always ended the conversation with, I love you. We have a saying at our company, avoid doing business with your friends, but work very hard to make friends out of all the people you do business with. Tell them you love them, and I need to tell you all that you are all friends of mine, very close, and I love all of you very much. Thank you very much.